So my earliest memory of Pendleton was we were on some road trip. I forget what for, but my grandfather was driving. He had this old Lincoln Town car that smelled like cigar smoke. And we stopped at the Pendleton factory in Pendleton, Oregon. And he bought me a Pendleton second blanket, which I still have to this day.
Yeah, I remember getting my first Pendleton from my grandfather because he had worn Pendleton all the time, mostly outdoors, but it was a warm shirt. So he gave me a lot of his, and then when he passed, I got a lot of his other clothes from Pendleton that he had used, and some of them were pretty well worn. They had the elbow patches and everything that he had worn out, and then they put patches there to sort of hide that. And so I wore those for a long time, and then I ended up giving those to Josh when he was doing this quilt project.
So my name's Josh Drake. I was born and raised in Boise, Idaho, and really enjoy the outdoors. So there were 5 men who owned the shirts that went into the quilt. One was my father, his father, Richard Drake, Charlie Kramer, his grandfather, and then on my mother's side, it was her father and her father's father. And they had all owned Pendleton shirts, being the outdoorsmen they were. What started all of this was a shirt very similar to this one. And it was my great-grandfather, Charlie Kramer's. Well, unfortunately, a lot of the shirts were too big for me or too small or whatever, but my favorite one of all the shirts was the one that was like this color.
It just makes you reflect on, when you have somebody else's shirt, you think about that when every time you see that, then it brings back fond memories of, maybe you can actually remember the time that you saw him in that shirt and what you were doing at that time. So it's pretty neat, I think. Even though I couldn't fit into them anymore, it's still a memory, that you want to keep. So
When I was having the quilt made, I told the quilter at the time, I said, look, I don't care how heavy the quilt is, but whatever you do, it's got to be tough enough to outlive me, to outlive my children, because I want my grandchildren fighting over it. I want them saying, hey, who's getting great-grandpa's quilt? Because I kind of want that, But I also needed it to not be a wall hanger. It needed to be something like these men that could be taken outside, could be used, could be, have a dog lay on it, take it out camping, break it out in an emergency, right? All those things. Throw it down on the dirt, right? And sit on it watching fireworks on 4th of July. I wanted it to be as tough as those men, if not tougher. They worked in these shirts. They went to church in these shirts. They had lives that were centered around these shirts. I'd waited 4 years for this, by the way. So I hadn't seen these shirts in almost 4 years, and I'd gone through a lot in those 4 years. And my parents actually received it first, and then I came for Christmas and kind of opened it up, right? And my initial reaction was silent, because I was in total awe. I mean, to create something like that takes skill, it takes thought, it takes a lot of artistic talent to be able to pull an idea together into a tangible item.
the blanket really turned out nice, even with the different patterns and with the different colors that they had to try to put together in a pattern. It was, you know, the blanket itself is, you know, really kind of a work of art.
My grandfather's not, he's almost 90 years old now. He can't see very well, he can't hear very well. So I showed him the quilt, and the first thing he did is he didn't bring it up close to his face. He ran his hands over it. And he goes, "Oh, this is really nice. What is this?" And so I told him, I said, it's Pendleton shirts. And at first he was like, You cut up all my good Pendleton shirts. And I'm like, no, I didn't do that. We made it into this nice quilt that I can pass on, because that was something that his mother had done with some of his old shirts. And so he was on board with it. And then I had to hold it up for him, and so he was looking at it, and he was, "Gosh, that's really sharp." And it makes me feel not like I've passed a test, not that it would ever be a test, but like I got the nod from those men, like they would approve of what I've done.
It just makes you proud, I think, more than anything, that you've instilled some values into your kids, your children, that they can carry on in life and be successful.
It can get kind of emotional, right? And I do plan on taking this quilt that I've made, that I've had made, with me on hunting trips. I plan on taking it with me, you know, on any sort of outdoor adventure, right? Because it's kind of like taking them with me. And you can kind of tell, like, hey, you know, as tough as it gets, you still got this.